Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Analytics Mindset. In this video, we will start looking more into relational databases, SQL, and more specifically, the ETL process, also known as extract, transform, and load. I will go from the basics of why we use databases and why SQL, but I will not cover that into detail. I do leave that into the documentation and the references that you can find in the description of the video. I will not go explaining the syntax of SQL. It is pretty straightforward. There is quite a bit of material out there. I may go more into detail in future videos, but just keep in mind, this video is particularly targeted to understanding the extract, transform, and load process that you can apply not only in SQL, but also in other tools. It is just particularly useful with databases. With that being said, we will start with what is the ETL process. As you can see here, the ETL process starts with the data source. We have multiple data sources. In this case, it's going to be a database when I go through the application part, but it could be anything. It could be an Excel file. It could be a text file. If you have more unstructured data, you may be in the problem of how am I going to clean this data beforehand. After that, we extract the data. In this case, we're going to be extracting it through SQL using a SQL query, then transform that into some way that's going to be useful for us, and finally loading it somewhere else. Let's go ahead and we can go into our application. This is Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. You may know it as SSMS. Basically, this is a tool that allows us to set up a database, and then after that, yes, manipulating it. This is a very simple database that I set up for testing purposes, and just keep in mind that you could use different interfaces. You could use things like dbeaver, MySQL, Oracle, etc. However, Microsoft SQL Server and MySQL are the two most popular databases out there, two of the most popular. And their syntax is very standard. Oracle and some other database vendors manipulate the syntax and make it pretty unique. In this case, most of the stuff that you will learn in SQL Server applies everywhere. And with that being said, we are going to go ahead and, as you can notice, I already have my instance. I already have a database called test database. And under that, I have a table called DBO transactions. There is a lot of ways that you could work in Microsoft SQL Server. I will not go into details about all of them. If you need a tutorial to install this, I will leave it into the description. There is a lot of ways to get into databases and set up your instance. In more of a professional setting or academic setting, depending on your situation, you will connect to an actual database. You will be given some credentials and connect to a database that somebody has on their end. This is a local database, meaning that it's hosted on my computer, and it's the simplest way, basically speaking. I could have set up a whole server to do that, but I prefer not to do so. Now, I can do this. I can go to test database, and let's say I want to do a new query. You are going to be prompted with this editor, and think about this as a very simple word editor. You can edit stuff here, etc. I want to do the simplest thing that you can do in a database. That will be select all. That is the wildcard for SQL for all the columns from something. And then from, and I will just drag and drop this table here. And after that, I can just click execute. So you can see here my table. This is the table that I already set up beforehand. I will leave the query that can create this table if you want to try it by yourself, but I will not go into the process of actually creating the table in this video, at least, just because of how troublesome can be sometimes, and there will be some video by itself. There is a lot of tutorials that I will also leave in the description if you are curious about it and you want to also do some self-assessment about how much you understand about databases. However, in most scenarios professionally, you will be given a database table ready with information. That is why I'm simulating this here. Now, this is in DBO, that is a standard database for Microsoft SQL Server, and it's called transactions. You can see here, it has 11 records. The case for this is you have a first name of your customer, last name of your customer, what's the purchase amount that that customer did, what's the discount that we gave that customer, and the discount reason. I could do it all from scratch and I could start exploring this. However, I already have a document with queries regarding this. So if I go to File and then I click on Open, I can then open a file. In this case, I already have these two queries. One creates the table. I will leave that into the link as well. So you can create a table if you want in your own instance, if you want to do so. But the other one is the actual queries. And if I open this, you can see my comments are here and each of the queries is here as well. Now let's spend some time doing these queries and working to them. We're going to go first to the extract phase. Here we are in the ETL process. We already identified our data source that is called transactions and it's a database table. Now we can go into extract. To extract the data, we will first see, again, this is the most basic way of querying a table. And I can execute it. This will return you every column in the table and all the rows there. Now, this is only appropriate if your table is small. If your table is big, by big, I mean millions of records, do not do this. That's one of the best ways to prevent you from waiting 1,000 years for your query to execute. We only do this, select all from one table. When it's relatively small, and again, small here is tricky, but I will say thousands of rows, maybe 100,000, something on that area, more or less. More than that, you want to do something like select top. So select top, let's say select top 10, will only retrieve you as many records as you want. So here will be the first 10 records. If we had 80 million records, for example, it will only give you the top 10. Now, this is also where we want to filter our data. Again, this table is awfully small. It's only 11 records. But we want, this is one of the main advantages of SQL. In fact, if you think about it, we could just copy this into an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV and then do everything that we want to do there in Excel. We can do that. That's perfectly valid. Some people prefer to do so. However, one of the main advantages of using SQL is that also when your data is pretty big, you can filter it before putting it into whatever you're going to use for analysis. With the where clause, you cannot do that pretty easily. So in this case, we are going to say, give me only the records where the discount is not 0 or when there is no discount reason. In this case, this is shown by null. Or we can use both. So how we read this is, if you have lost me in the syntax, select all the columns from this table where the discount is not equal to 0. This is equal, and this means not, so not equal to 0. Or the discount reason is not null. This is just the syntax for is not null. I'm saying you will return me everything when any of these is not true. The discount is not equal to 0, or the discount reason is not null. We're going to execute that, and we actually can see beforehand what we're going to get. There is only 2 records where we have null discounts or the discount is equal to 0. That's the purchase from Christina and the purchase from Dan. We're going to go ahead, select, execute. And we actually got 8 records. So let's triple check why we had three records instead of 2 excluded. There you go. Veronica also had a null discount reason here and a discount of 0. We could have done it manually in Excel with filtering too, but the beauty of SQL is that if this changes, let's say there was a new record with another discount purchase, where the discount is not equal to 0, and there is an actual reason, we will get that here. We do not repeat all the steps again. It's the same query with the same business logics here. The business logic being, give me everything but the discount is not equal to 0, or the discount reason is not booked. Now we have 8 records here. And now, again, we can just go, we could go ahead and go into Excel and do all our calculations there. But let's take this a little bit more a step ahead. When we are doing the transform steps, this means we are transforming the data. We are doing something that is not in the data originally, and we want to get something else. So in this case, we're going to go through a little bit of a more complex query. We will do count me how many customers are here, and then add their purchases. So we want to basically say, hey, we have 8 customers here, and we have all the purchases. Just give me how many customers we had in total, and how many purchases, how much was the total value of the purchases. With the same filter, we want the discount to be different than 0, so everything that is not 0, and the discount reason is not. I'm going to execute this. We had 8 customers, and I'm just going to assume that this is in dollars because that was my intention. It would be $14,400. Now, something to consider here. The distinct keyword ensures I'm going to get distinct first names. So, for example, if we had 2 people named Fiona, it will give me only one of them. And the sum purchase gives me the total sum of the column purchase. Now, notice something here. This is not recommended in industry. Most of the first name approach. Customers can have the same name. If they had the same name and I use the word distinct, here, the keyword distinct, I will have only 8 customers again, but it will add together. Let's say for some reason we are going back to the main table. We have 2 records for Luke. I will have only 8 distinct customers, yes, distinct names, but I will add still all of this together. So if we have 200s and that was just an error, I will still overcompensate for that. Let's say that it was corrected later. That is something that you want to keep into account. In most scenarios, for this particular case, you will have a customer ID that identifies your customers uniquely, even if they have the same last name, the same first name, customer 1, 2, 3, etc. You have seen you probably have some kind of subscription or membership. That is your unique customer identifier. That is how the company identifies you. And that is usually also used for this kind of purposes. The other one is the sum of purchase. So most transactions will have a unique transaction ID saying this happened at this time with this customer, because obviously a customer can come back, they can make another purchase, and you will have 2 different purchases for the same customer. They will have different transaction IDs. In the case that I said, let's say that we, for some reason, recorded Fiona's transaction once or Luke's transactions twice, we will have the same transaction ID, assuming that it was just a manual input. And we will need to basically say, add that for the distinct purchase, for the distinct purchase value. It is a little bit more complicated than that though, because if we had the same purchase twice, we will want to filter that out first, filter the duplicated record, and then doing the aggregation. So that is a very important step in transform that I will not go that much into detail again in this video because it will be way longer than it is already. However, that is something else that you want to take into account. When you are getting a report, when you're getting an aggregation, that is the formal name of what we are doing, You may know it as a pivot table in Excel. You want to make sure that you are doing the aggregation in the right data. You are doing it in the correct data before, because what the aggregation does is taking your data and summarizing it in some way. This is just a summary of the actual table that we got here. But we needed to use different columns for this. So again, we used only 2 columns and then we put it together. Now, another step in transform, notice how it says no column name here and no column name here. That is because SQL, when it does an aggregation, it takes whatever value you're giving, whatever column you're giving it, first name, for example, and purchase here. And then it just says, well, that's a new column. I don't know what to call it. That is what most SQL dialects will do, with some exceptions. That is not descriptive though. We could export this somewhere, let's say Tableau, for example, and we will have no idea what the number 8 means or what the number 140,400 means. We have no idea. To avoid this, there is a very simple fix. We can use another SQL query, a keyword that creates an alias. So we are saying this thing, the count of this thing, first names, call it something in the query here. And then the sum of purchase, call it something else here as well. This is the syntax for that. Notice it's exactly the same query as here, but I am saying the count distinct of first name, call it number of customers, and it's done using the word as, the keyword as. The sum of purchase, I'm going to call it total purchases. Everything else is exactly the same. I'm going to go ahead and bring this and execute this. There you go. It is exactly the same thing. Like, it is exactly the same. I had the same query. I just added a label saying you are going to say this is the number of customers and this is the total purchases that it. And if you didn't do that, again, you will basically need to go back to the query and understand what it's doing. And that is especially tricky if, let's say, you are an analyst and you are retrieving a SQL query, but then you need to share it with somebody else. You share the results, you export it somewhere, and then just forget to put the labels. It just happens. Sometimes it happens. Then the person that is getting the query does not know what it means. They know they ask you for something. And in this case, it's kind of straightforward because let's say you have 8 customers and that's not going to be the same as this number, but sometimes numbers can be way closer and you just want to label them correctly. Going down. A lot of times we want more than one number. This is just 2 numbers describing the whole data set. We are going to do something a little bit more complicated and we will group by in this case. So notice here, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to get the total sum of purchases and call it total purchase. Then the total discount and call it total discount. Then I'm going to get the average discount. And this is the new part, discount reason. I'm saying, give me the discount reason label here. And then from this table, where these things are true, where the discount is not equal to 0 and the discount reason is not null, and then group by the discount reason. What this is going to do is this, execute. You can see here, basically is, again, if you're more familiar with Excel, a pivot table. I literally just said, add me together the purchase value, the total discount amount, the average discount, and then put me the discount reason here. Now notice how discount reason is not mandatory in the select clause. If I do this, we get exactly the same thing. The only difference is that we don't know what discount reason, what discount reason has what values. So that is why we put it here. Now, the group by is mandatory. If we do this, SQL Server will tell us that the query is invalid. Why? Because we need the discount reason. We need to put this label using the discount reason. And the reason for that is because if we delete this, I'm just going to comment it out, we will get the total value, the values for the whole thing. We will not get them by discount reason. When we do this, we are saying, go through each discount reason and do these calculations for each discount reason first, and then return them back. And in the select clause, what the discount reason does is just giving me back the labels. So don't confuse yourself. If you lost me there, go back because it's a very important concept. Just as a pivot table, you need to first group by one column, but then we also want to get that column into the select clause as a label. And we can only have that label if we have it into the group by clause. Notice how we don't need to have purchase or discount or any other value here in the discount in the group by clause, because we're aggregating them. We are doing something in here that says, okay, I'm going to aggregate them. But discount reason is what we are aggregating them by. We are doing this average and these summations for each of those discount reasons. Now, with that being said, let's go through our next step. In transformation, we can also just take this a little bit further and calculate something that is not in the data already. We have done a derivation of the data, just take a simple count or take the simple addition of it. But in this case, we're going to do this. This is the new part here. I'm saying, calculate me the total discount, then calculate me the total purchase amount and divide them and multiply that by 100. That's going to give me the discount percentage. That is basically how much of a discount we gave in total for that discount risk. I'm going to get this executed. And here you can see, for charity, we gave a 5.6%, 5.7% more or less discount. For a large purchase, we gave a 5.1, and for a promotion, we gave a 6.3. This is where you can get insights from data, because you are doing a lot of what it would be called in database analytics. You are actually getting something that it was not in the data, but you are calculating it based on the data. And this query, if you had more records, these numbers will change. It will change because it's calculated relatively to the data behind in the database. Now, the last part is load. So we got our report. Again, we just have the total purchase, total discount, the discount percentage, average discount by the discount reason. And now we can go back to whoever asked us to get this and say, hey, they were like, okay, where are we giving our biggest discount? Are we giving charities maybe? We can say no, actually. Based on the data that we had before, we're giving the biggest discount for our promotion discount list. And then your decision maker or stakeholders could make their decision based on that data. Now, the load part is a little bit more difficult to explain here in Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, but there is a lot of ways to export these results to other tools. So SSMS, that is this software here, an interface for Microsoft SQL Server. It's as simple as saying, right-click, save results as, and then I'm going to go here and call these transactions results. I'm going to go to my file explorer, go here, and then open that CSV. As you can see in this CSV, I do have everything I needed here, besides the column labels. That is unfortunate because I could use them for a lot of things. But that is how you can export data in SSMS. You could also just copy with headers, for example. That is another option that SSMS give it to you. And if we just open Excel again, if I do that, you can see here the total discount because I only put it that one, but we could also, you can also change the order of the columns like this. But I can just select all and then say copy with headers. And what I would like to do is just paste it. And now I have the labels here as well. This works for very small query results, but if you had hundreds of records, it will be way more difficult. If you have thousands of records, it will also be a little bit more difficult to do. Microsoft SQL Server has a lot of ways to get these results out as well. With the labels, there is actually automation between them where you could actually schedule queries. You could do them automatically. And that's where a lot of the possibilities with SQL start, where you can just refresh a report and send automatically speaking. However, we will not go to there. That's a more advanced topic for another day. Just know that in addition to exporting it as a CSV, Tableau, Power BI, even Excel, they have the capability of connecting straight to your database. So what you will do a ton of times is go here in SSMS or other editor, try your query, get your result, and then connect in, let's say, Tableau, go to data sources, connect to this database here, that you will actually have a server for that, and extract your data from there. That will allow you to have a direct connection through whatever software you're using. So if you think about it, SQL is more about an interface where you are saying, you have this table, you in this database, give me these results that I want. I have only limited myself to the ETL process because this is one of the most basic concepts. And also where a lot of work is in analytics, where you first need to find your data, then you need to clean your data, then you need to filter your data, and finally load it somewhere. So going one more time through this diagram, we have gone through the data source first, how we extract our data, how we transform our data after that to get something that was not in the original data, and then loading it somewhere. In this case, through a simple CSV, but there is a ton of other ways that we could export that as well. And with that, that is the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. If you appreciate this or if you found it useful, please leave a comment, a like, subscribe, etc. I appreciate any support that you can give me. Thank you. Have a good day.